Welcome to Be Hero Fights. I'm Tom,
And I'm Brian,
and we're here to discuss
or Fuss.
over what's new
What's trending?
or what's to come.
So, guys, last show we did, we talked about Spider-Man: No Way Home and the big reveals in that, as well as conversation about its future and the future of not only the MCU but really movies and the format in general. And you guys left some great comments in there, so please keep leaving those. Let us know what your thoughts were, and let us know if Tom was right on his aspect that it's going to ruin the future of how
Not
movies go.
not ruin, but I get my question was, will it hold up in the future? 5, 10 years from now, is it still going to be just as entertaining for new watchers jumping in? That was my question, and that's what we want to know.
But that was totally last.
Yes.
This week, we want to talk about something that's been really pushing since the No Way Home came out. So spoiler alert, mind you, it's been almost a month at this point that it's come out, but spoiler alert, uh, we had the return of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, as well as Mark Webb's uh, Spider-Man's Andrew Garfield. And
And
as such,
I was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say, you mentioned last week about the energy in the theater and how it felt so normal and so right. And I just wanted to say that yes, the energy, everyone cheering at those scenes and those moments was
Yep.
incredible. That is really more than anything what I live for is that communal energy that just makes everyone lose their minds. That
It
was
was
amazing.
so good. And they give us a little bit of foreplay of that specific thing in the movie as well. Again, spoiler alert, Charlie Cox's Daredevil, even the small little bit. And I love the line where he catches the brick right before Tom catches the brick, Tom Holland, Spider-Man catches the brick. Like they're both going for it at the same time. He catches it and he looks at each other and goes, I'm a good lawyer.
I'm a
I love
really
that.
good lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's so good.
that was
Um
great.
mm. Sorry, the wet my whistle. But anyhow, since the reveals of that, there has been a huge push, to Sony specifically, to get Andrew Garfield and Mark Webb to make a third Spider-Man. Which I love Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. Tom Holland, I think, has nailed it the best with all aspects of it. But I love the way that Andrew Garfield did his version of Spider-Man. Not so much the Peter Parker. His Peter Parker was a little too emo for me. But his Spider-Man with the quips and everything else was so good. I love a lot of the takes that they tried to do with everything. I love Emma Stone's take on Gwen Stacy. I love Emma Stone.
Yeah, I don't think
But
anyone can deny the chemistry between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. That honestly, even those that did not enjoy those movies, I've never heard anyone say anything, give anything other than the highest of praises to that chemistry. They worked amazingly well together with each other. They bounced off each other so well. That was awesome. And as a huge comic book fan, especially of the original story arc with Gwen Stacy and Spider-Man, that to me was the most, like, honestly, the most satisfying. It sounds so horrible, but like the fact that they went there, that they brought that new sense of tragedy, uh that is what I felt Spider-Man was missing and needing more so than just like, yeah, my uncle died. Uh like that to me
ow,
made
bro.
so
I
much
want to
more.
apologize on Tom's behalf to everyone who's lost an uncle that was very close to them. Okay.
I,
Um, but no,
I'm
no,
I'm
joking
not trying to
aside,
say that, but yeah.
uh, I agree. I think that the chemistry that they had, as well as the story they had, um, the story that they do is in one and more in two is a great love story. There's something special about Gwen Stacy for Spider-Man. People who know the Spider-Man story over and Mary Jane. And Mary Jane's the one he ends up with. That's the one he's like his tie to and everything. That's his Lois Lane. But you don't learn about his Lana Lang for that, unless you know who Gwen Stacy is. And I think it's one of the things I love so much about No Way Home is they did such a great job with Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker. Not even Spider-Man, just Peter Parker, in talking about the loss. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man comes over to the MCU years after Gwen died, after he was unable to save her. And he talks about how he tried to move on after being sad and everything at the end of Spider-Man. He tried to move on, but then he found himself being so full of rage, not pulling his punches, everything else, that he could not get over his loss. And then, and I felt this coming through the trailers, but I was so glad to see it there, where spoiler warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warning, uh, where MJ falls off the Empire State Building, and Tom Holland dives to go save her, fingertips away, and the Green Goblin snags him. And Andrew Garfield dives in and doesn't do the same thing he did with Gwen. Instead, he's able to catch her and save her. And not only does he save her, but the look on his face where he recognizes this is his way of dealing with his loss, a way of coming past it by saving the love interest of a Peter Parker. And like that look on Andrew Garfield's face. You not only feel the emotion in that scene, but you feel the emotion and the chemistry that the two had from the other movies in that one scene. Andrew Garfield's a god.
Yeah, when that happened, every man in the theater immediately started crying, and every man's woman that was with them was like, "This is a
Oh, my wife
superhero
laughed.
movie. This is a
My wife
superhero
laughed her
movie.
ass off.
What's wrong with you?" No, I think that scene alone was the character arc that we all needed for Andrew Garfield, for his Spider-Man, for his Peter Parker. Something that we obviously never got from the franchise, but we all needed it. We all wanted it with how the Amazing Spider-Man 2 ended, in such a tragic way. This was like the mo in my mind really was the perfect like resolution, the perfect conclusion, um, the perfect closure. That's the word I was looking
Perfect
for.
closure. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way of
To
saying it.
that. However, because of how well executed that was, it reminded so many people, myself included, that we never got The Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
all liked Andrew Garfield. It wasn't his fault that everything wasn't perfect. Uh, and so now there is a huge outcry on the internet to get The Amazing Spider-Man 3. Take it away, Brian.
Which, before I go too far into it, I am 100% behind. I know Tom is as well, on doing that. So Sony, because we know you watch this, please go ahead and greenlight it. You can put us as like executive producers on there because we pushed it so hard. I'm fine with this. That being said, uh, the huge push is not only to have the Andrew Garfield get a third movie, but because of an end credit scene where we find out that not only was Tom Holland's Venom from a different universe than the MCU, which we have finally established in that he gets sent back before he ever meets Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And as such, the push is to get him and Tom Hardy to have a face-off in that reality, in the Venomverse. They'll have Mark Webb Spider Verse or Spider Man universe be the Venom universe. So that would include him and Morpheus and anybody else. The conversation they had about doing a Black Cat Silver Sable movie would have been in this, and everything that would be part of that. This is a great way for Sony to use what they've gotten from the MCU and to continue a separate Sony story that does not require an MCU story, right?
Which isn't that one of the most beautiful things about the concept of the multiverse? And now that we have that established, we can now go and make movies that are outside of MCU canon, but that still work within their own canon. Suddenly, everything, even though yes, the Amazing Spider-Man movies aren't part of the MCU canon, Now they make sense and they stand on their own that much better than they did before. The same with Tobey Maguire's, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, right? Um, that's one of the beautiful things. I would dare say the most beautiful thing that was set up by this movie was the fact that if they choose to, now they can continue Spider-Man stories with different actors and different universes and tell things in different ways with unique perspectives. And isn't that what we all want out of storytelling? Is new perspective.
right? This allows you to expand everything so well. This is what Marvel and DC have done for years in having kind of separate universes for doing. So, a prime example, in the late '90s, early 2000s, they started doing the Ultimates run for the Spider-Man or for all of Marvel, and they had the ability of telling new stories in that where it came with the X-Men and Spider-Man and Captain America, Captain Marvel, and everybody else that was separate from there. And one of the greatest things that came from the Ultimate run that they did when that one was ended in the late aughts or early 2010s uh, was Miles Morales, right? Miles Morales became a Spider-Man and had his own story and was so beloved because of that. Because we had a different universe take. Even now, we have Gwen Stacy returned as Spider Gwen for the last 7 years or so because of a multiverse story with Spider Verse, which again was a multiverse story. We could have all of these. In fact, you can do the great crossover that's a Sony owned crossover product that has ties to the MCU as its own universe and everything else, as well as your animated series with a Spider Verse style thing where you can have the can't remember the names of the villains from the Spider Verse series, um, but they would be able to come and go chasing after the Spider-Man, the Spider Totem Bears, which is what they're known as in the comic, for the Spider Verse, and hunt them down. And you'd be able to have everybody. You can do, Gwen. You can have Silk in it. You can have uh, Ben Riley. You can have Kane. You can have
Oh,
all of the Spider-Men from
I want
everywhere,
Ben
right?
Riley so bad.
And they could be
God.
done. You can have they're introducing oh my gosh, Spider-Man 2099's
They introduced him at the end of Spider-Verse, right?
they did the last one. My gosh, I can't think of his first name. Miguel O'Hara. 2099's Miguel O'Hara Spider-Man. They introduced him as a after credit scene in the end of the Into the Spider-Verse, but into the Journey Through Spider-Verse, I think is what the next one's called. Part 1 and part 2. They will be having him as a huge part of it. You can
It
do similar things like that through.
I gotta ask something because I admittedly I don't know much about the 2099 Spider-Man. I remember when a lot of those comics were coming out, it just I didn't like his look. But I love Scarlet Spider. Anyways, my question for you, Brian, because I know you would know, the way they set him up at the end of Into the Spider Verse is he was very much a Deadpool esque character. Is that how he was in the comic books? I didn't think he
No.
was that
Not
like
really.
that.
He's not, and even in that, he's not really a Deadpool-esque kind of
The
character.
breaking the fourth
He
wall, aware of very meta. I guess
he didn't break the fourth wall.
he was very meta.
He's because he's from 2099. He knows history of everything that goes on, or a history of everything that goes on. Not to mention his AI that's with him, whose name I forgot, is able to go and look through all of that history and everything else. He's an interesting character. So unlike being bit by a spider and everything else, he is forced to have um, spider genes spliced into him because of a company he's working for called Alchemax. Which in the Into the Spider Verse we see Alchemax. That's the corporation that uh, Olivia Octavius works at and runs and everything else. So it was already a tie into that. But to bring it back with Andrew Garfield, Spider Man, I think that there's so much untapped potential with that, as well as it's been enough years to know both for Mark Webb how to tell that story and direct that story if they were to use him again on it. But also to see what fans want from not only a Spider-Man movie, but to kind of have your Mark Webb flavor with what we know about how Spider-Man movies that work. With the high school trilogy for Spider-Man that we have, you can look back and see how those work. The MCU method of having it work, you can tie it into that a lot better. I think that we could easily get one of the best Spider-Man movies there. Not to mention, Toby got three, Tom got three. It's only fair that Andrew.
It's only fair. Um, I don't know why this popped in my head, but does anyone else think that there needs to be not a full movie, but like a back when Blu-ray extra scenes were a thing, uh, an extra scene of all three Flash Thompsons duking it out?
Yeah, that would not work at this point since the original Flash
Since
Thompson is,
Joe
uh,
Manganiello is jacked as
yeah,
shit.
he would destroy them. He would go Deathstroke on them, man.
As he should.
Yes.
Anyways, no, I do agree. It is, you know, beyond it only being fair that Andrew Garfield got his. Um, for him to get the closure with in a 2 minute scene, in an MCU Spider-Man film doesn't really feel. And don't get me wrong, for that movie and in that moment, it was justice, but it doesn't feel like he got justice. It feels like there can be more done there, especially with what he explained about not pulling his punches and starting to go too hard. There is a story there that needs to be told. I don't even care if it leads to him at the very end getting pulled into the into the MCU. That's fine. We need to see that deteriorating Spider-Man, and then like there will be like a wake up moment, and then he gets pulled. Like that needs to happen. I need to see.
Well, if you tie it in with the whole Venom thing that people are trying to get it to do, I think it works perfect. One, it allows him to be able to fight an alien because that's what he was wanting for. This is so
Well, we
good.
can't have
I
him
want
fight
to
an
fight an
alien
alien.
before he goes
um,
to the MCU.
but no, the other part is with his rage and everything else that he has right now, or dealing with that rage. Uh, we can call back to that, right? Like you can literally have a scene, like a bit of the scenes from No Way Home, cut into a new Spider-Man or a new Amazing Spider-Man if they were to do it, and have it where it calls back to that, and even with his closure by saving MJ, but have his frustrations and his sadness and his rage still be there. He hasn't fully dealt with it. He's accepted it, but it's not fully done with. He has not dealt with it. And so when he gets the Venom uh symbiote attached to him, it brings that out, right? It brings out that rage. You
and it
could
would
easily.
and it would still work because it was Tobey Maguire's Spider that stopped him. You know, clearly Andrew, like, well, I shouldn't say clearly, but Andrew Garfield, for whatever reason, wasn't the one that stopped Tom Holland. Was Tobey Maguire, who had already overcome Venom, the Venom symbiote. Andrew Garfield, who had not. That actually that does make sense. You know, like you said, he hasn't fully processed that. He hasn't fully healed. He has not fought an alien yet. So if he comes back in after that, and now he like, yeah, maybe he's starting to pull his punches now, but now he becomes the Venom. Now he gets to fight an alien, I guess, and he gets to resolve that because clearly it wasn't resolved because he was very far away and not even attempting to help when Tom Holland was about to kill Green Goblin.
Yeah, I don't feel like he was hiding from it or even allowing it to happen. I think he was just not sure what to do in that aspect. Um,
Right, and
and
that's
he
fine.
didn't have a
That's fine.
tie with Norman Osborn like or like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man does, right? There's a tie. I think in the story just the story outright. It's better for it to be Toby. One, he's the elder statesman, or what do they call him? Christian counselor or something like that.
Yeah.
Uh, of that scenario. And so I think it works better for it to have been Tobey Maguire, um, Spider-Man to have done it. But Andrew did help in saving the day in a more passive way. Um, but I also think it allows for that redemption that was needed. Uh, yeah, I don't know what else more to say. I mean, Sony would be leaving money on the table, not I think. Especially if
Yeah.
they put talks about doing it now. I mean, it's going to take 2 years easy for a movie like this to really come out, but
And
that
that's fine.
we could theoretically do it in a way where we have um into the or Journey Through the Spider Verse, which comes out next year, I think. And then have Amazing Spider Man, and then have uh MCU Spider-Man, and then continue that trend. And the next one of the Into the Spider-Verse ones, and then another amazing, and then another one. So we could be doing a Marvel aspect of Sony having a Spider-Man movie coming out almost yearly, which may be too much, but if they do the stories right and everything else, I think we could.
Yeah, I think if it's done right, absolutely, I think we can do it. Because they've already been working on Into the Spider Verse 2. Um, they developed the Amazing Spider-Man 2 or 3, excuse me. Now, then yeah, I think that'll absolutely work. There's so many. I think there's two characters in all of comicdom that have the rogues gallery to support it, and the diversity in storytelling to support it. And those two characters are Batman and Spider-Man. You can tell any story that you want. There's so much untapped potential.
Yep.
Um, and that being said, I don't think it would be too much to get a Spider-Man movie every year and a half.
Yeah. I think that the story aspect for them to be able to do that, where they're also wide enough to be able to handle that,
Yeah, one
is
Miles
quite
Morales,
possible.
one Andrew Garfield, one Tom Holland,
Yeah.
uh, maybe another Tobey Maguire cameo in another movie. Yeah, I think that's all absolutely okay. Should happen.
Yeah, like Sony would be leaving money on the table, like I said. Not to mention they would be able to continue their contract they have with the ownership rights, Spider-Man, stupid easy, instead of having to just like try and throw something out there, which sadly is how we got the Amazing Spider-Man. Is they were about to lose the rights again. When they're like, oh, we need a Spider-Man movie. That's why the Amazing Spider-Man came along, and kind of a rush job. So, and don't get me wrong, The Amazing Spider-Man was great, so was the sequel. But if it was planned and worked right, and we had these great plans, right, they could do that. So yeah, Sony, good on that.
Please
Yeah.
and thank you. What
Well,
do you
guys,
guys think though? What are your thoughts? Do you guys agree with us and the entire interwebs that Andrew Garfield deserves at least one more movie, The Amazing Spider-Man 3? If there's a petition, sign it. But what are your thoughts? What would you like to see come of that? What were your favorite things that he did in Spider-Man: No Way Home? Um, Let us know. We want to hear from you. Hit us up on our social medias, facebook.com/BeHeroMedia, Instagram.com/BeHeroMedia.
on Twitter at BeHeroMedia, as well as everything that is BeHeroMedia Media at BeHeroMedia.com. Don't forget to drop a comment in here, as well as hit the like button to help us with the algorithm. Hit that subscribe button here on YouTube, as well as the notification button, so you know when we drop another great episode of Be Hero or Heroes Player, anything else that we drop right here on YouTube. And to answer the question, by the way, the best thing from Amazing Spider-Man was the scene where he goes and saves the kid being bullied, the science kid that's being bullied, and he helps him out by trying to get the planetary like thing working and like webs it for him and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, man, that's cool. Like that's the kind of thing that Spider-Man does.
Yeah.
That's the kind of hero we all need.
You and I, let's be honest, you and I could make an entire season of just discussing Spider-Man.
Which I'm totally fine with. Drop us in the comments if you want that.
Yeah, if you want more Spider-Man discussion on how he is one of the very few savior archetypes, whereas most everyone else is an hero. Excuse me, warrior archetype. Spider-Man is a savior archetype. Well, I could talk for days, and I know Brian could as well.
Oh
What
yeah.
if you want to hear more of our Spider-Man banters? Only slight. If you want to hear more of our Spider-Man banters, let us know.
But guys, with how we're doing everything this year, we're going to continue with these kind of conversations. Let us know how you feel about it. But until then, guys, go out there and be a hero. Till next time.